Go ahead. I am making this announcement in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, laws of the state of New Jersey. Pursuant to NJSA 10-14-18 ETSEQ, notice is hereby given that the mayor and council of the Borough of Kenilworth are convening for a special meeting on Thursday, November 4th, 2021 at 6 p.m. in council chambers located on the second floor of the Borough Hall, 567 Boulevard, Kenilworth, New Jersey, 07033. The purpose of this meeting is for the governing body to meet with the redevelopment attorney for a status report and consultation. This special meeting was called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. Notices of this meeting were sent to the local source in the Star Ledger on October 28, 2021. In addition, copies of notices were posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building and filed in the office of the municipal clerk on the aforementioned date. Notice on the bulletin board has remained continuously posted. Accordingly, the notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied in regard to this meeting. Please stand for the salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Cesari. Here. Councilman David.
Here.
Councilman Finestrella.
Here.
Councilman Ladati.
Here.
Councilman Pence.
Here.
And Councilman Puglisi.
Here.
All are present.
Okay, thank you. Elnordo J. Webster of Inglesino Webster, Wiscalla, is that how you say that? And Taylor is here this evening as Borough Redevelopment Attorney to brief the council on the proposed redevelopment project located at 25 North 26th Street. Partner Elnardo J. Webster, too, concentrates his practice in areas of real estate and regulatory matters and government affairs. Mr. Webster has represented clients before governmental agencies such as the Department of Health, the Casino Control Commission, the Department of Insurance, the Economic Development Authority, the Board of Regulatory Commissioners, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Environmental Protection and Energy, the Army Corps of Engineers, and local and municipal zoning and planning boards. He serves as a general counsel and special litigation counsel for a number of governmental agencies. Also here this evening is Michael Hanley from NW Financial Group. Michael Hanley joined NW Financial in 1999 and provides the firm with his public finance experience and expertise. Mr. Hanley is actively involved in financing for several of the firm's major accounts. Mr. Hanley plays a key role at NW Financial, serving as financial advisor and underwriter for many of the firm's clients. He acts as lead advisor for an array of clients whose operations include affordable housing, solid waste certificates of participation, water and sewer utilities, and redevelopment. In recent years, Mr. Hanley has spent a large part of his time consulting on billions of dollars of redevelopment projects in municipalities such as Jersey City, Newark, Weehawken, Homedale, and West Orange. Mr. Webster, you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm impressed that Mike's doing billions of dollars. That's pretty good, Mike. I'm going to hang out with you a little more. Mayor, thanks for the introduction. I actually go the other way. I think of myself as a kid from Jersey City. I've been doing this for 25 years, so I've developed some expertise and represent enough towns and represent enough clients on both sides of the equation that you've got a little bit of understanding of how these deals work. I understand that this is Kenilworth's first redevelopment project. And when I was brought to the table a couple of months ago, you guys were pretty substantially down the line. You'd done a plan, you had this memorandum of understanding with the developer, which is a redevelopment kind of agreement light. What I was asked to do is to develop a redeveloper agreement and a financial agreement with the developer. I spent some time going back and forth with the developer, worked with Mr. Hanley, NW, who advises probably 50 or 100 towns in New Jersey and entities. We're on the same side some nights, opposite sides other nights. I have a lot of respect for him. And they've kind of gone through the financials and crunched the numbers and come up with some ideas. But to be quite honest, what we've proposed is a relatively run-of-the-mill redeveloper agreement. The only thing that's in it talks about some timelines for start and some timelines for completion. That you don't own the property, so you're not selling the property, so those kind of issues aren't at hand. It's a pretty straightforward agreement. It asks that within 6 months, they file site plan applications. Within a year, they commence construction. And then within 2 years, they be complete with their construction. It gives them essentially another year on the completion of construction, so long as they explain to you why it's taking them that long. The parcel, I've been by there a couple of times, is, I guess, to be used for truck parking. And it seems to fit the redevelopment criteria, and that most of the rest of the town is pretty developed and pretty, has been developed for a long time. So obviously it fits the criteria. We did the study on that some time ago. We drafted a document that is the state of the art, that utilizes all the current provisions, protections, and whatnot for you guys. It's been circulated to the clerk. She can distribute it to you. Take a look. Give me a call. We can talk about it however you want the information to flow. That's basically it. With respect to the financial agreement, the financial agreement proposes an abatement with respect to the taxes. The current developer agreed to proposal is 30 years. The first 10 years is at 11% of gross income. The second 10 years is 12%, and the third 10 years is 13%, right? Is that what we came up with? Mike can give you the backup and some of the rationale as to how that number came about. I think they wanted 10 years. I mean, they wanted 30 years at 10%. We came up with a little different math based upon cost projections, rent projections, and whatnot. So, Mike can dive into those numbers a little bit. The agreement, as it stands, generally is about, in my estimation, usually it's about 65 to 70% of ad valorem taxes. However, because you're not required to contribute to the county, you can contribute to the school board, kind of at your discretion. The towns actually get more ad valorem taxes than ad valorem taxes, even though less taxes are collected. These type of deals are done every day, all over the state. I know it's new to you, but literally, I don't know if thousands, but hundreds of these are done every year. And this is how redevelopment occurs. As you know, it's difficult and costly and time consuming to get new developments done. It really depends on the terms of the agreement. Again, the redevelopment agreement is really, I think it's just kind of belts and suspenders on what everybody expects out of the process. The financial agreement obviously is a bigger deal. It's an investment of the town of tax resources because obviously they're not paying as much as they would had the abatement not been in place. And there's flexibility around how those numbers and that process is calculated. I don't know if you want more. I also lecture at the New Jersey Redevelopment Authority and can give you a lecture on the redevelopment process. I don't think that's what we're here for tonight.
I have a question. I just wanted to go back, if we could just circle back.
Yep.
In the time frame that you talked about, that they have to complete certain things, what happens if they come in and the property is contaminated and there needs to be remediation? Is there extra time added to that, or is there some kind of clause in there for something like that?
So there's not a clause that specifically addresses that, but that would be a reasonable, if they had to go and have the property abated, there was some pushback with DEP or whatnot, But, I mean, look, unless there's something that's really, really atrocious that's happened on the site, you know, like it's an unclosed landfill and there's some huge DEP process. I mean, the process of removing dirty dirt or the process of removing underground storage tanks that have been there are really not, in today's day and age, in the redevelopment process, an impediment to development.
Okay.
I mean, so unless there's something that's really, really funky there, that I would presume they know, they've done phase one already. So I don't see that being an issue. But if, you know, they're doing something and they come across, like I said, the remediation of the land is not the part that takes a long time. It's actually going through the Department of Environmental Protection process. Is the thing that takes a long time. But I don't see any, on a site that size, like I said, unless it's an unclosed landfill or there's some nuclear waste that they find that's buried there, if it's just the normal kind of, I mean, I drove over there, unless it's just like normal
You never
truck
know.
properties and underground storage tanks that we see
Okay, I
all over New
understand.
Jersey, that process shouldn't take any longer because literally you hire a company, they come, they dig the hole, they pull the tank, they remove the dirt, they test all around it. When the tests come back at a certain level, they're good. They bring in fresh dirt, they test the fresh dirt, they dump it, and they don't. And to be
Gotcha.
quite honest, in most of today's day and age, even if you had that kind of dirt, you might not remove it. What sounds crazy, but is the process is that you literally bury it under the parking lots. So the parking lot area, the drive around is where you bury all the bad stuff. And you put 8 inches to 12 inches of macadam on top of it, and essentially that's a control.
Okay.
So from an environmental standpoint, unless there's something that's wildly out of there that I haven't seen or heard about, and I know they did a phase one and they said it wasn't really problematic, then I don't think that there's a whole lot that you have to worry about on the environmental side of that project.
Thank you. Okay.
I have a question in regards to waste removal. Is the developer going to be responsible for taking waste removal or is the town?
What you mean?
Garbage.
As part of the abatement, they would be responsible for garbage removal. They would have a separate contract for a waste hauler to remove the trash.
The other thing I'm concerned about is the sewerage. We get penalized for every day we go over a certain amount of sewage that's been reported. Obviously, this is going to create more sewage. Might be an issue there.
So I don't know what I don't know what treaty works approval situation is in town. That, to be honest, is something we have to talk to the town engineer and find out what the number is. I'm surprised about that, and I'm surprised that the town in Union County has that issue. But I mean, if there's a cost associated with you buying more capacity at I guess you could say Valley. If there's a cost of adding more capacity for your town at Passaic Valley, then the developer in their project is the cause of that. Then the developer would have to pay for that expanded capacity.
Make sure we let them know that.
Yeah. Well, that will be in the agreement.
And it's in the railway sewer.
Oh, Rollway. Okay, you go to Rollway. Okay.
I mean, you can never transfer back to who or what was the cause, you can only assume that.
But if you know what your safe yield is, they know exactly what your flow rates are, and so you know if you're going to add, I don't know, 200, dwelling units. I'm not exactly, I forgot what the exact number is. 164. Yeah, 160. But if you're going to add 160 something units, you're going to have an estimate of what that capacity is, and you're going to have them pay for that.
Right. Okay.
And what traffic studies, is that?
That was my question.
Yeah.
So
They're responsible for that too.
So traffic study is generally not part of the redeveloper agreement. It's going to be conditioned upon that, but we don't know that at this point. Usually they're not going to pay for that until they're designated, and then that's going to be part of the site plan process. So they're not going to get past your planning board if they don't have an adequate
The other
traffic
stuff before.
situation.
Okay, yeah.
So usually that's not something that this board considers at this time. It's a condition requirement of the agreement, but it's accepted and acknowledged that that's going to happen once they get to the planning board process. So your planning board is going to be responsible for that.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it would be environmental, only because, cars, carbon footprint, stuff like that. I didn't know if it was environmental or you have to wait until everything goes through and then go
I'm going to tell you that there's going to be so planning boards and municipal councils don't have environmental jurisdiction.
Okay.
Right, so the Department of Environmental Protection does. I do this application, I do applications on both sides, representing developers and towns every night. There's not going to be an environmental impact from 160 cars coming in and out. That's not going to trigger, there's going to be no impact. You have thousands, tens of thousands of cars coming up and down the boulevard and going up and down the parkway every day. There's going to be no impact. I mean, it's de minimis. So that's not going to be a trigger. The carbon from the cars going back and forth is not going to be something that stops or starts this project.
Okay, I was just wondering if it was environmental.
The environmental we think about, usually that hurts projects are usually like, if you go into the ground, and back in the day, they used things like chromium as backfill around sewer pipes, around water pipes. It was, something that the chromium companies readily threw off. I don't know if this part of the state has so much chromium. There's asbestos in the property because the prior buildings used asbestos for pipes, asbestos for tiles, asbestos for insulation, those kind of things. So those are the kind of environmental concerns that we normally see in redevelopment projects. Also, sometimes if there was a building there, when they demo the building, they just knock it into itself, so they knock the whole building into the basement and just covered it and just put dirt. And so the materials that they use for construction might have asbestos. So those are the kind of things that spike demolition costs.
Got you.
But to the answer I gave the mayor before, it's not necessarily hard to remediate those things nowadays. Like 20 years ago, those things used to give everybody craziness. But today, we pretty much know how to do it. The guys come in, they have to take the tie-back suits on. They dig it out, they put it in containers, they put the tarps over it, they wrap it with plastic, and they send it out to Utah, and they dump it in a hole. Or Arkansas. That's pretty much what. Or they bring it down to Newark to Epic, and Epic sends it on a train to who knows where. So that's basically how it's remediated these
Okay,
days.
thank you.
Yeah.
You answered my question.
Well, I would definitely make sure to do test it, because I did come across a map back in the 30s. There used to be a pond there, and
There's always been a pond, there's never been a building, it's just
so we don't know what filled that pond.
Uncle was.
Filled with something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but, if there's a pond there may be other issues. There may be underground streams, there may have to be pipes, there may have to be water moved off the site, they may have to build slurry walls, but all that's the developer's responsibility, that's not the town's responsibility. All that can happen is that they come in a year and say, we've done all the homework, we've done our testing, we can't do the project, we gotta go. I mean, that's basically what happens. We spent the money, we paid you, we paid for your professionals, we signed the escrows, we tried, we can't do it, here's why.
The only question I have, and I know it might not be the right one, but just say the town tried to do something to stop this project. For whatever reasons, I don't even know how we would do it, but then the developer says, the hell with it, I'm going to sue you, the town, like they've been doing, and get the builder's remedy. How, that comes back to haunt us even worse. That's why I want to get that out there so people realize that, because I don't think that people know that that's a good possibility that could happen if this project is derailed by the town.
So I'm not your redevelopment council. I mean, I'm not your COA council.
All right.
So I can tell you that there is a COA component in this project, but I'm not your COA council. So I actually don't know what your numbers are. I don't know where you are in your plan. I don't know if you've been certified. I've not done that. We can get Ceridian or his firm, I guess. What's his name? Eric Nolan. We can get Nolan. He'd have to answer those questions.
Okay.
He probably should have come tonight to be part of this presentation, but I can tell you generally that the COA is, if you don't satisfy your COA requirements, it does open you to, things like builder's remedies, yes.
And that's cost a lot of money.
Well, it costs a lot of money in litigation, but ultimately you're going to have to provide.
One way or the other, this has to get done.
Well, I mean, look, the reality is that I'm not going to tell you that this project has to be done.
No, not necessarily.
But you're going to have to satisfy your COA requirement,
right.
whether or not this project gets done.
Exactly. So somewhere in town, buildings are going to be built. If it's not there, it'll be somewhere else.
Eventually, yeah.
That's all I want to get out there, because everybody was, we're turning Kenilworth into slums, and that's not the plan. That's
We
not.
don't
that's not-
have that many, I'm trying to think how many co-units we have exactly. Hold on one second.
We're supposed to have like 300 something in Kenilworth.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I'm just looking at the number we have in our project. Hold on.
Yours is 164. What do we have?
25, 25.
Yeah, 25.
Oh, yeah, that's, low.
And how many of them are, what's the low number?
It's like 4 or 5.
So, I mean, I guess the misnomer about affordable housing is that affordable housing comes in tranches, right? So you have low, you have moderate, and then you have workforce. And our numbers are, what's the AMI for each?
A lot of our low is in the 30s, and then you get to the 60s.
I have all this information.
28s, and then workforce is.
Right. So if you look at the rents that people are going to be paying, you'd be surprised at what people consider low income. I mean, if you have a family of 3 or 4 and you're making $45,000.
I think it goes up to 80,000,
Yeah,
actually.
the numbers are
Yeah.
really, not that low.
Right.
You probably overlaid the town with the demographics of the town and the average incomes of what you could propose. You'd find out that there'd be probably, because it is the average median income, you'd probably find out that 30, 40, 50% of the town would qualify to be in those affordable units. But, that's something that you could have your planner do. And he can take a look at the math and kind of talk to you about what the actual average median income of the town is and disbursement of that versus what the low income is and how many people that are kind of in town already would be eligible for that. I mean, most of the time we see, to be quite honest, the local teachers, the local firemen, young couples, people from town are moving into here. I mean, that's the experience we see, night in and night out. 60, 70% of the people that are moving in are from this town or the 3 or 4 towns that surround this town. I mean, that's people want to go to the same hairdressers, the same pizza parlors, the same nail salons. They want to see their moms and dads. They want their kids to go to the same school. So it's not. Most of the projects we see are relatively local and attract relatively local people. But that's something your planner should talk to you about. That's not a lawyer conversation.
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you.
I just wanted, curious.
Okay.
Mike, why don't you go up and talk a little bit about the math, and then we'll answer whatever questions they have after that.
I'm Hamlin from NW Financial. Do we want to do this in the open session?
Yeah, this is normally a negotiation, so usually we do it in closed session because we're going to talk about the math and you're going to go back and forth on the negotiation. So I don't know if you want to do a closed session, it's up to you guys.
Absolutely.
Closed session.
So we need a motion to go into closed.
I'd like a motion to go into closed session.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Cesari, seconded by Councilman Puglisi. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to go into closed session. Public.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Cesari, seconded by Councilman Ladati. Does anyone have anything to say regarding this development for the good and well-being of Kenilworth? Please come forward. Okay, seeing no one, I'd like the motion to close the floor for public discussion. Motion made by Councilman David, seconded by Councilman Ladati. All in favor? Aye. Okay. If there's nothing to be brought before the public portion, I'd like the motion to close the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Cesari, seconded by Councilman Fenestrella. All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you, everyone.
Yeah.